VYAPT Global Growth Series is an initiative to build hope and arouse curiosity and cherish dreams by sharing growth and opportunities in various segments of the industry across the globe. Our initiative has come a long way with more than 13 million touch points. The leaders appearing on our platform has been kind and committed for the development of mankind. For every hope we create today, the world would see a growth story tomorrow. In our growth series today, we have with us Mr. Sanjeev Kaul, who is the chairman and MD at Lubrizol India. Sanjeev, with more than 3 decades of experience, has been instrumental in his contribution in chemical and petroleum industries. Welcome to Global Growth Series, Sanjeev.
Hi, Pankaj. Good afternoon, and thanks for the invite. And in fact, it's always a pleasure to come to such forums, and VYAP is a great forum to be associated with. So thanks again.
Thank you, Sanjeev. And we start with our first curiosity. So we've started moving back to normal from what we were in March or April 2020. And we have seen the horrible adversity of the pandemic across the globe. But what are the opportunities, if any, this crisis has created for your industry?
Okay, so it has been a pretty trying year, I would say. I agree that last 3 quarters have been pretty tough, particularly the quarter April-June of 2020. I think we can term it as a bit of a disaster from industrial perspective as well. No sector was left unhurt. But the silver lining has been that many sectors actually started coming back by July-September quarter and actually got even normalized during the quarter October-December. Chemicals in general and our industry, which is to do with the automotive additives and specialty chemicals, actually had a great October and December. And actually we delivered higher than the corresponding 3 months of the year 2019. I agree it's not true for all the sectors, but chemicals, pharma, auto actually fared much better. And definitely it belied some of the fears which we had in the month of June 2020. Secondly, I do recall the recent Indian cricket match, when Indian team came and actually stormed the Gaba fortress. I think in the same way, I would say the GDP has come back. And if we have to believe some of the numbers which are out there, particularly from this National Council of Allied Economic Research, I would put, they are putting the quarter October-December as higher than the previous quarter. That is, we will be turning positive. Now, this is a feat which not many countries would be proud of in the last year. So I think we should pat our back, and thanks to the industry and the way in India we managed the pandemic. Coming to your second part of the question, which is around the opportunities. I think COVID period has been a great opportunity for the industry to relearn and rewire how we do our business. We emerged much more efficient, self-reliant, and also actually much more disciplined in how we run our businesses. And there have been so much of focus has been around how to manage costs, and at the same time how the employees have picked up in terms of accepting the realities and moving on with it. I think that is a big leap for the Indian employment scene. Coming home to the chemical industry, the pandemic did throw up an opportunity which was well caught by Government of India as Atmanirbhar Bharat initiatives. Various geopolitical changes also happened, and India has the potential of becoming hub for bulk chemicals, particularly for Asia and actually for global in general. We do see some movement both in increased capacity of the local companies as well as interest from the foreign companies. But I think we need to have patience and perseverance for that. It doesn't happen overnight. You would imagine people need to gain some confidence on the policies, then arranging finance, arranging approvals, arranging partners. It takes time. I think if things go the way they are now, 4 or 5 years down the line, I think we should be even in a much better place. I think in summary, if you ask me about the opportunities, COVID did push Indian industry to rethink and reinvent itself into a more agile fighting machine.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, it pushed India into self-reliance for some key raw materials or key products, particularly associated with pharma and chemicals industry. So that would be my take on your question, Pankaj.
You mean to say that there have been a lot of opportunities which this pandemic and crisis has created for the businesses? So
Yeah.
when you're so optimistic about it, how do you see the growth prospects of the industry in the next 2 quarters? Now, since you manage business in Africa as well as Middle East, I would like to probably share those aspects as well in this. Apart from that, you can also talk about South Asia. And what are the transformations required to leverage the changing landscape?
See, I think as we can all understand, India is among the very few large economies which will be turning around quickly post pandemic. So
True.
we have that, starting advantage. I would use word. Today we are already seeing turnaround in banking, auto, chemical, pharma, agriculture, and these sectors are likely to actually even more accelerate over the next, let us say, 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
New investments, stimulus provided by the government is only going to add to the positivity over a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And on the, we also need to understand that there is lot which will depend upon how the government, whether India or any other government for that matter, takes advantage of this situation. Are they able to transform themselves into supporting the industry? But if you look at the next 3 4 quarters, it's not only India. I would say even in the Middle East side or Africa side, things are turning around. We saw much less impact in the Middle East than even India, I would say. And in Africa, it's a bit unique. There is business concentration in only 4 or 5 countries. In those 4 or 5 countries, other than South Africa, where the tabulation of pandemic cases and the support systems were very visible, I think they are still very few and far between in other geographies of Africa. So there actually business has been almost business as usual.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So all this is going to create that, I would say, positivity in terms of the prospects of the industry. How does government leverage, this whole mess or this whole, pandemic or the transformation which is required in terms of increasing capacities, either by, expanding the existing industry or being attractive for the overseas investments.
Mm-hmm.
And if we are desirous that India should be a destination for manufacturing and more investments,
Mm-hmm.
I think then there, apart from the various physical interventions which Government of India is doing, we do need to address some of our basics, which we are still struggling with in India, as compared to some of the mature industrial nations. So I think the list can be huge, but let me, taking advantage of your invite, let me highlight few of them.
Please.
I think first of all, let us look at, and I'm keeping the chemical industry in focus. Let us look at the interdepartmental coordination
Mm-hmm.
for a minute. You have Environment Ministry, you have Pollution Control Board, state, central, then you have industry bodies or industrial parks or MIDCs, whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm.
Many times we see one department taking a decision,
Mm-hmm.
which other departments find it is great, but they have operational or implementation challenges. It doesn't get implemented, and they pass on the onus to the industry.
Mm-hmm.
This half-heartedness is a bit, I would say, a bit discouraging to the sentiment, particularly when an external investor is coming in.
Mm-hmm.
They desire actually clarity.
Mm-hmm.
But many times, since we don't have all the answers, we are left to interpret in our own ways. I think that's one thing which we need to work upon as a country. I think the second one I would say is We are all global. Most of the companies now are becoming global. Global systems run our companies, whether it is SAP or whatever you call it. Uh, we cannot have ad hoc interventions, because all these interventions do have financial implications with approval authorities spread all over the world. And many a times we have seen that when we are so close to the deadline and we have to make a change, it becomes not only difficult, but it does again show India in a bit of a poor light with the decision makers or gatekeepers or influencers who can influence the investment into this country. So they need a bit of stability in various things. Okay, and because this all financially model driven kind of decision making. And if we have these kind of changes a bit often, then probably again that brings a bit of a tentativeness in the whole decision making process. And I have seen many industries announcing great plans, but then over 1 year or 2 year down the line they pull back, because when they come to know of some intricacies, they become a bit hesitant. So these are, I mean, the list can be long, but I would say very small things, but very important to improve the sentiment of India as a great investment destination.
Sanjay, I'm sure people are hearing this, and I'm sure with the kind of optimistic nature what you're talking about, and it's always good to share the thoughts and the ways we can be better, and so that we can attract more investors and we can make India a great nation, and we can do business with the multinationals as well as domestic companies in India. That's really a great thought from your side, Sanjeev. So we move towards our third curiosity, Sanjeev. And as you talked about that, the growth prospects and the opportunities are really very high in your segment. So what are the job prospects would this growth and opportunity create?
So Pankaj, this is a very I would say important question, but at the same time you may not get an answer which you are desiring to hear from me. See, we are likely to see growth in jobs. Okay, that is an overall, I would say, but this is not going to be exponential. Mm-hmm. Even if there is significant investment, mm-hmm. Okay, whether expanding the existing industry or bringing in new investment. Mm-hmm. Now, there are reasons why I'm saying it. I think first of all, I think we need to understand that talent and labor will continue to be important, but our youngsters need to be trained for the new age jobs. Mm-hmm. Robotics, artificial intelligence, then automation, it is all here already. Mm-hmm. During the pandemic period, actually people have pressed these things even more. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we have been on a lookout for efficiency. Particularly, I would use word for the chemical industry. We want to automate the process. We want people to be away from the reactions as much as possible. Mm-hmm. So we are not expecting, unless and until there is a big investment by the existing player which expands the footprint. We are unlikely to see more jobs in the same industry for the same job. Mm-hmm. Or the same kind of production they are undertaking. Mm-hmm. So we need to see expansion. Now, similarly, when somebody is coming from outside and putting up an investment, mm-hmm. they will look at the extremes of automation and then look at what kind of manpower is required. Mm-hmm. So my challenge to ourselves in India is that our ITIs, our engineering colleges, mm-hmm. How do we tool our people for the new age jobs? Mm-hmm. So industry, when the industry takes them in, they have to redo the entire thing. Mm-hmm. I know the kind of training which we have to do to our youngsters when we bring them in. Mm-hmm. Despite being an ITI, despite being an engineering graduate, we have to almost start from the scratch. Mm-hmm. So I would say when we understand these things and do this tooling outside in the initial phase, mm-hmm. things will be much better, things will be much easier, and at the same time, our youngsters will get a wider choice. Mm-hmm. So long story short on this, jobs will be there. provided we expand our current footprint, or whether through local or through global investments. But otherwise, for the existing industry, existing jobs, we are unlikely to see, anything significant happening for a delta growth of 5%, 10% in the industry. That is not going to give us exponential growth in jobs.
So Sanjeev, you talked about improving the skill sets. So in nutshell, you talked about improving the inputs so as to improve the output. So, the job prospects or the jobs are the outputs. If you can improve the inputs, infrastructure, processes, and if we adhere to that processes, that and the new jobs, new kind of jobs coming in, and we have the skill sets accordingly, definitely we would see jobs ahead, isn't it?
Fair. I fully agree with that, and I think that's what I said. We need to go down to basics, and this is a treadmill. You can't be standing, you will fall. You have to keep at least walking, if not running, to be in the race. So this automation, artificial intelligence, all these things is every day you see a new gadget doing something new. At our level as well, how much of features do we use of the electronic gadgetry which we have, because we have not tooled ourselves for all the applications which are there, available there. But a youngster can, provided he is given the right tools. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about the retooling of our youngsters.
Fair enough. So Sanjeev, we talked about growth, we talked about opportunities, and we talked about job prospects. Okay, wherein you have been kind enough to share your mind and heart with us, and I'm sure thousands of viewers who are watching us would must have liked your views. But would like to understand from you about a person is about you as a person, that how do we ensure that our desire to grow remains untouched even in the toughest circumstances, because we have seen the last 10-12 months, there have been pandemic, and then the crisis, loss of lives, loss of jobs, and much of the things have been negative in the world. So if you could help these viewers understand, who are not that great, who think that, okay, fine, given a chance, I can grow. Can something from your life which is inspiring, and you think that these people can even be better than you in years to come?
So this is a bit of a loaded question, but let me talk of the general view on this first. I think the biggest thing which we many times lack is that belief that we can grow. And I think the pandemic was, while it was all bad, but I think it did bring out quite a few good things, at least for us over here in India. I think the first of all we need to understand is that we can be much more resilient, we can be much more agile, we can be much more accepting the ambience which is ever changing, but even then come out victorious from there. I think that is the first sentiment. I think the second sentiment is, what does India offer you? India is far away from reaching its peak consumption in any category. Look at the number of personal mobility vehicles per 100. We are at the lowest of the lowest, among probably maybe top 100 countries. Look at the infrastructure, gaps in infrastructure, gaps in service industry. Wherever you look, even look at where our agriculture is today, where we want our future agriculture to be. There are gaps everywhere, and this growth is not likely to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. It is a minimum 40 to 50 year growth patterns, staring at us. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to have that belief that whichever sector you are working in, you can still grow. Mm-hmm. Good thing is that in India, almost every parameter we look at, it shows us that we have growth ahead of us. We still have a long way to go. So I think if we embrace that kind of sentiment, rest will follow. The energy will follow. The will follow. You know, rest all will fall in place in its own way. So that should not be a problem. And I think same thing for me also. I mean, going back. So I have always believed that there is growth irrespective of what the current numbers are in front of you for the company you're working for.
Mhm.
Past performance does not reflect your future performance. You have to take the learnings from the past and design your own future. And so long as the thought process is in the right direction, our decisioning is data driven, our decisioning is consumer oriented or customer oriented. We see whatever we do, it is important that it should create value for the customer.
Mhm.
If it doesn't, just don't do it. You're wasting your time. So these are some of the beliefs which one has to actually take on board, to create a successful company or to create a successful career. So I would leave it at that.
So, Sanjeev, you talked about that the changes are more in mind and less in actual. And you also talked about that one has to be an optimist, one has to look at the brighter side, one has to have a positive attitude and a mindset towards future to grow. And you talked about in order to build a successful career or a successful organization, these things are the basic steps which we need to carry forward. I think it has been really an important discussion between us, and the viewers who are hearing us, listening us, who are seeing us would must have get an insight about the industry, the growth and opportunities. Thank you so much for your mind and heart talks in VYAPT Global Growth Series.
Thanks, Pankaj, once again, and thanks for having me here. And it was a pleasure talking to you as well. So all the best to you and the VYAP team. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.